Hello.
Ray was into analyzing what developed in the 2nd and the 3rd centuries that was different than the apostolic period, and he isolated the significance of synods or councils. And he goes on page 60 of In Search of Christian Freedom. Initially sporadic, the councils gradually became more frequent, and their authority in the forms of decisions reached received heightened emphasis. By the time of Cyprian, that is AD 200 to 258, these synods or councils and the conclusions, policies, and positions arrived at were stressed as vital. Cyprian maintained that the unity of the church consisted in the unanimity of the overseers or bishops. The presiding overseer or bishop eventually becoming the sole participant of his congregation at the council, he therefore conveyed the council's decisions to the congregation members. As Lightfoot notes, the bishop or overseer had become the indispensable channel of divine grace. Any not accepting what came through this channel were denounced by Cyprian, who said that they were guilty of the sin of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, who rebelled against Moses and Aaron. Compare this approach with the following, and there's a quote: "We must show our understanding in these matters, appreciating our relationship to the visible theocratic organization, remembering the fate of those like Korah and Achan and Saul and Uzziah and others who forgot the theocratic order."
These words, in the February 1st, 1952 issue of the Watchtower magazine, page 79, mirror the language of Cyprian. Lightfoot notes that Cyprian used Old Testament analogies, like that of Korah, again and again in his arguments, and he observed that such claims are urged, moreover, as absolute and immediate and unquestionable. This means that Cyprian did not need to prove that his analogy was correctly applied, that these persons were indeed doing the same as those rebels of Moses' time. He only needed to make the assertion, and this was so that all were expected to agree. This too finds a precise parallel in the modern-day organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. Identical analogies are applied to any failing to conform to the organization channel's pronouncements. And in words like those of Ignatius, nonconformists are portrayed as self-confident, quarrelsome, and proud. The organization merely needs to say that analogy with rebellious persons of the past applies, and all are expected to believe that this is so.
Which amounts to judging hearts, doesn't it?
Yes.
You're judging people's motives
And their hearts, right.
and making a comparison between the authority of Moses and your authority. Well, you can see why that comparison was tricky even in Ignatius's day, because he was not an apostle.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly wasn't Moses, and why it would be even more difficult today. At least Ignatius was taught apparently by the apostles themselves. The Watchtower can make no such claim. So the next subhead is salvation only in and through the religious organization. The congregation or church was now seen not in the simplicity of a brotherhood united by common faith and mutual love, but as a religious institution with defined boundaries, beyond which institutional boundaries one could not move without disastrous consequence. Thus Cyprian wrote, quote, "He can no longer have God for his father, who has not the church for his mother. If anyone could escape who was outside the ark of Noah, then he also may escape who was outside the church." Now this is Philip Schaff, the Reformed teacher, in his History of the Christian Church, referring back to what Cyprian taught. And then Schaff comments in the footnote on page 61, "The scriptural principle, out of Christ there is no salvation, was contracted and restricted to the Cyprianic principle, out of the visible church there is no salvation." And then that's the end of Schaff's quote. But then Ray goes on, Watchtower publications use virtually the same argument as Cyprian, with his reference to being in the ark in their arguing for salvation's depending upon one's being within the visible organization and its spiritual paradise. And Ray refers you to the Live Forever book, pages 192 and 93. We're all, of course, used to that type of comparison, used habitually by the society. And then Ray goes on, in this way, the scriptural teaching that salvation results from faith in the ransom sacrifice of Jesus Christ was now added to, enlarged upon, extended beyond what the scriptures themselves say. No one could be saved, it was now said, who was not within the church organization, subject to the overseer or bishop. The exclusive role of God's Son as the means of salvation was no longer exclusive. Men now entered into that role. The overseers and the church institution or organization shared Christ's life-giving role as also being essential for salvation.
Words now came to take on a different meaning. The Greek term, ecclesia, generally rendered church or congregation in translations, simply means an assembly or gathering. In common usage in the Christian Greek scriptures, it refers simply to a gathering of persons who met together as fellow believers. They were an assembly because they assembled or gathered together. With the exception of the initial period when they were still welcome in synagogues, the gatherings were done principally, in fact almost exclusively, in private homes. It was the act of assembling or congregating that made them a congregation, not formal membership in some constituted or organized group. The term ecclesia referred to them as a gathered people, an assembly of people, either locally or viewed as a collective people, an assembly of people, either locally, collective body, forming the people of God, the assembly of the firstborn. They were a community, that is, a people having common interest that joined them. While the term did not cease to be used in these senses, in the following centuries a different meaning came into play. As the quotations already made from the period show, the term church, ecclesia, came to refer, in fact, to the religious authority expressed in the men who exercised even greater control over those congregating. Loyalty to the church now meant not simply loyalty to Christian community, but more particularly loyalty to the leadership and its direction. Similarly, when the church spoke, it was not the community speaking, but the religious authority speaking.
I think we need to be cautious here, though, because I think we go from believing that the ecclesia has taken on new meanings over the centuries, which it has. It's now no longer the gathering or assembly, but rather the place or the building even.
Yeah, right.
An institution, which he rightly objects to here. But on the other hand, gathering and assembly is the root meaning. So we shouldn't replace institution or organization with no real community, no real assembly, no gathering. Because in the New Testament, and I could add to what Ray's analysis shows here, it wasn't just that they gathered at the synagogue, which they always did as Jews, and continued to do if they were still welcome. Yeah. They also had the house fellowships. But also, at least the Jewish Christians who were in Jerusalem and Judea assembled at the temple. So they had multiple levels of gathering or assembly that we shouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Yeah. Real community must happen.
And there was a purpose for them gathering. So Acts 2 is a good illustration of why they gathered in private homes. There was a reason why they came together. And that reason still exists for believers, that we should gather together.
If you'd like a refresher on that, then I would say that the gathering principle is seen in its best light in Acts chapter 2, the latter part where you see that their assembly was in private homes, yes, but also still assembling with their Jewish brethren. Even if they weren't yet believers, they still assembled with their Jewish countrymen and went to the temple, which is a for many of us, and Protestants too, I would say, is a kind of a horrifying thought. Early Christians were still Jews,
Yeah.
although they had their own meeting places as well. In the next segment, Ray goes on developing the change in the use of the word ecclesia as the centuries went by, until finally the church becomes an international structure and organization.
Mm-hmm.